What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to install a 2500 Badlands winch from Harbor Freight into the bed of my pickup truck. Now I'm going to go out and say that the way I'm installing this right now is actually not the smartest way of doing it, but it is the way that makes most sense for hauling motorcycles and stuff like that, and these FCE cars and buggies and shit that I put on the trailer. So that said, please understand, it's not the best way, but it's the way I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to mount, so I bought this. This is the 2500 Badlands winch with a coupon. You can get it for 50 bucks. This is an ATV winch mounting plate. It costs $4 and is sold separately. So I bought this, and the primary reason I bought this is lately I've been buying some bigger stuff. I'd like to have a little help rolling things like the buggy or whatever onto a trailer, or some of the bigger bikes into the bed of the truck, so I don't have to take the trailer. And the way that's going to work is this is going to hook to a strap that's going to go around the front forks of a bike, and then it comes with this nifty remote control. So I can actually hit the button and it pulls the winch cable out if there's some force on it, or I can hit the button and it pulls the winch cable in. And it's totally remote controlled, which makes it handy. So basically what I can do is I can loop this to the forks of a bike while I'm outside, line it up with the ramp, hit the winch, and then basically step up into the truck bed as the winch is holding the load. Now the way we're actually going to use is we're going to use this plate, and unfortunately this plate is designed to sit like this based on the mounting holes. So we're going to have to drill 2 extra mounting holes so that we can mount the winch like this, and these 2 are going to get some very big grade 8 bolts that are going to bolt into the bed of the truck this way. The reason I'm not bolting straight down through the truck bed floor is because that would be very difficult to do on my truck, because it's without removing the bed, because there's a drive shaft and a bunch of other stuff right there where I want to go. So we're actually going to mount this, and we're actually going to mount it to the top of the truck bed. Again, that means that these bolts have to carry the entire weight, but we're gonna put a piece of metal underneath to help support some of that. And all in all, it's gonna work out, hopefully, and give me the ability to pull stuff into the truck bed a little bit easier than it is now. And then it comes with fairly long leads, so we're gonna see if I can wire them inside the cab, where I have already have 12 volts running from the battery for my amplifier. And so if I can double up on that connection, I can use the winch while the truck is running, or not running, and without having to use a jump box or something like that to drive the little winch. So the first step was to modify this base mounting plate, and all I really did was I basically mirrored this by putting 2 holes right here, checked them against the bottom of the winch, they mounted up perfectly. So there you go. And a note about this: don't use drill bits on something like this when you want to do a project like this. One of these stepping bits is much easier to use. It's going to go through metal like butter, and it's going to let you step out to the right size without much of an issue. So now we got to figure out how to get this mounted in the bed. So the plan is that these things are centered. So we're actually going to center this plate right here, and hopefully the camera can catch that, but it's basically going to mount like that. I'm going to get it actually centered. We're going to drill holes through this. And now you're probably asking me, why don't I put the plate down here and just mount it through the floor? Well, this down here is actually single rolled. This in here is double rolled, and I seriously doubt the camera is going to be able to capture that. But the metal right here on this roll part is actually twice as thick and quite structurally more stable than this down here, because remember, this just simply takes impacts. It doesn't really take a lot of bending force, whereas this has to keep the cab and the bed straight, so it's actually pretty sturdy. Secondly, I'm going to use a set of big washers back here to help maintain as much rigidity as possible. So in the end, this is going to be mounted right here, and I'm going to get the winch in here to make sure it clears this bump. But it looks like we're going to mount like this, and the winch is going to sit on here, and then that should be good. And the other advantage of this technique is that we will be able to have a much better approach angle, because remember, I'm wrapping this up around the forks and not you know, down by the axle or something. So I want to be able to break over the top of the bed in the back without having it cut too much into that guard right there. So I'm going to take a look at a couple of different positions, get the winch back here to see how well it's going to fit, and then I'll show you guys what the final call is. So at the end of the day, the idea that I want is the relocation plate, and so basically this is going to get tightened up and the winch will mount onto this plate as planned, and then this thing is actually going to mount up under here. And the reason I chose this is basic mechanics, right? So whenever the winch is pulling something from down there, it's going in a descending trajectory, which means it's going to pull on this plate, but it's also going to push down like this. So your forces are this way and straight down, so your arrow is going basically down through my legs. So this gives us a nice big, this is what, 1/4 inch or 3/8 plate. And so this is going to be mounted through the toughest part of the bed, and then this right here is going to prevent it from flexing and basically distribute the load like a giant washer. So all we really have left to do is I need to mark these holes, bolt this in, tighten these guys up, and the nice thing is as you can see, these heads fit into this divot right along the center line. So we can tighten all of this down, and then once this is tight, we can simply bolt this on and run our wiring. So there's our final mount design, super duper solid. And now we can just bolt on the winch and then wire up the electronics. So there we go, fully mounted up, feels pretty stable. And so now we're going to wire in the electronics, and the plan is to basically mount the module underneath, run the 2 wires here, and then we'll run the battery wires back into the cab where we'll jump them off of the subwoofer input. So it turns out that the vent I thought was a vent is actually not a vent, and so getting power out here will require running a separate line along the chassis from the battery, and I actually have the wire to do that, and I will do that, but not today because I'm tired and sweaty and complaining. So just a quick little demonstration. So you can do it like that, or if you need to run out a whole bunch of line, you can pop this and then it freewheels, and then you just pop it back in like that. And then when you're ready to pull your load in, just hold the end button. The only real downside is you need to make sure you take your finger off about a second before you actually want it to stop, because it starts and stops is about a 1 second delay. So I'm not actually cleaning up my tools. I'm going to move the truck around. I'm going to give you guys a little demonstration with our golf cart, just to kind of see if it rips itself out of the bed or not. So real world stress test is about to commence. Make it a little bit more difficult, I went ahead and locked the brakes, and let's see. So whenever you're using a winch for something, you either want to hook the hook directly onto something, or you actually want to use a strap, and that's what we're going to do. We're actually just going to throw this through here, and we're actually going to use that strap. And so this is an example of a real world scenario. So we reach in here, unlock the spool, unspool this thing, come down here, lock it, come up here, lock the spool, and now we're going to give it the in command. So you can see the bed is flexing, which isn't ideal, but you can also see that the golf carts are rolling, which is ideal. Now I set this brake by hand, so is it an absolutely ideal scenario? No. This cart is about 500 pounds on its own, plus the fact that the brakes are on. makes it a little bit more difficult to move. But this thing works like a champ, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to back it out a little bit. Loosen the slack. And now you want to hold on to this red cord, because you want to make sure that as the cable lays down, it follows its guide. And the only real way to do that is to maintain tension so that there aren't any kinks in the cable. So just like that, there we go. It clearly works. We got a little bit of flexing here, but I don't think it's that bad, because it's this whole piece that's flexing, and so it's not going anywhere. It's not going to rip the bed off its hinges or anything like that. So I think we can chalk this one up as a success, and I'll get it properly plumbed and wired when I get a chance. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks.